When a client walks into retirement, the hardest question isn't, do I have enough? It's how to structure what they already have. How much should sit in safe assets? How much should go into growth? And how that mix should change over time. That's the bucket strategy decision. And getting it right for each client is exactly what Cherish Buckets is built for. Cherish Buckets helps financial advisors build the right bucket strategy clearly and with confidence. Every strategy comes down to three things: safety, coverage, and glide path. Safety is the number of years of expenses held in low-risk assets, the client's runway. Coverage is the percentage of expenses the safety bucket actually covers, both essential and discretionary. Anything not covered by the safety bucket is covered by the growth bucket. Glide path is how those safety years change over time. You might start at 10 years of expenses, step it down gradually, and settle at 5 for the rest of retirement. Get these three right, and you have a strategy your client can understand and follow. Cherish Buckets lets you test this across different scenarios until you find what fits. Now, bucketing isn't for everyone. Some clients prefer a fixed asset allocation, and for them, that works fine. Neither approach is inherently better, but there are three situations where bucketing has a clear advantage. First, control. Fixed asset allocation uses a single bond percentage and doesn't distinguish between essential and discretionary expenses. Bucketing does. You decide exactly what the safety bucket should cover. For example, a retiree might cover 100% of essential expenses, but only 50% of discretionary expenses from safety, with the rest coming from growth. That level of control isn't available in fixed allocation. Second, early retirees. Here, portfolios are usually larger, so even a small bond percentage can create a large safety allocation. Bucketing works differently. It holds a fixed reserve, say 5 years of expenses, which often leads to a lower bond allocation, while still providing comfort and allowing for higher growth. Third, legacy goals. With fixed asset allocation, the same equity-debt split applies to the entire portfolio, including the portion meant for inheritance. That means part of the legacy portfolio sits in lower growth assets like bonds, which can reduce long-term growth. Bucketing separates this. It keeps legacy capital fully invested in growth assets, so more of it remains positioned for higher returns. Now here's how the tool works. The 6 calculators aren't separate products. They're 6 ways of looking at the same question. What's the right bucket strategy for this client? Which one you use depends on what you know and what you're trying to figure out. If you know the client's corpus and want to determine the right legacy target, use the legacy calculator. If you want to understand how much discretionary spending the portfolio can support, use the spending calculator. And if you're testing how many years of expenses the safety bucket can realistically hold, use the safety levels calculator. In every case, you start with a bucket strategy, the years of safety, the glide path, and the coverage of essential and discretionary expenses. The calculator then shows you what that strategy produces in terms of corpus required, legacy value, and sustainable spending. So you're not guessing at a strategy. You're seeing exactly what it delivers and adjusting from there. Now let's run a scenario. We'll use maximum discretionary spending, a common case where the client has a corpus and a legacy goal, and you're trying to find a strategy that supports both. Our client is John Mitchell. He retires at 67 with a life expectancy of 97, a 30-year retirement horizon. His essential expenses are $50,000 a year. His corpus is $1.7 million, and his legacy target is $3 million. Now we set the strategy. We'll use a safety bucket of 5 years, meaning 5 years of total expenses held in low-risk assets at any point in time. This is the key lever. You're essentially asking, if we hold 5 years in safety, what does the rest of the plan look like? Now hit Run Simulation. Now this is where the strategy comes into focus. At the top, you see the key outputs. The required corpus matches the starting corpus at $1.7 million. The legacy reaches $3 million, and maximum discretionary spending comes out to $17,273 per year. But the real insight is in the charts. The portfolio growth chart shows how your portfolio is divided between the growth bucket and the safety bucket over time. The green area represents the safety bucket, and the blue area represents the growth bucket. The growth bucket is stacked on top of the safety bucket, so the total height reflects your overall portfolio. Notice the shape of the safety bucket. It stays stable, or even builds slightly, because it consistently holds enough to cover the next few years of expenses. Toward the end of retirement, it begins to decline as those remaining years reduce. This overall pattern is your glide path. This is what you're evaluating. Does the split feel right? Does the safety bucket stay adequately funded when it's most needed? And does the growth bucket still have enough room to build a meaningful legacy? Next, the safety analysis chart shows how many years of expenses the safety bucket can cover at each point in retirement. Ideally, this stays close to your target. Here, 5 years, through the core retirement period. In the later years, it tapers off naturally as the remaining time horizon shortens. You can also switch to the table view to see all of this numerically. For each year, you'll see the total portfolio value, along with the split between the growth bucket and the safety bucket. You'll also see how many years of expenses are covered by the safety bucket. In this example, the safety bucket is structured to cover the next 5 years of expenses, as shown in the expenses covered by the safety bucket column for each year. This makes it easy to see how near-term spending is secured and how that coverage evolves over time as the glide path plays out. Now, this is where the tool really earns its place. The first run won't always feel right. Maybe the coverage is too high, or the safety bucket isn't holding enough, so you go back and adjust the inputs. You might change the coverage. Instead of covering 100% of discretionary expenses from the safety bucket, you bring that down to 50% and see what that frees up for growth, or you rethink the glide path. You could start at 10 years of safety, step it down by 1 year each year, and set a minimum floor at 5, so it never drops below that. Then you run the simulation again and see what changes in the legacy, the corpus requirement, and the sustainable spending. You're not guessing at a strategy. You're modeling your way to one until the glide path, the coverage, and the outcomes all feel right for that client. Now, on pricing. All 6 calculators are completely free, no commitment required. The paid plan unlocks 3 additional features. First, embeds. You can place all 6 calculators directly on your website, so prospects can run their own scenarios before they even speak with you. Second, report downloads. Generate clean PDF and Excel reports for every client conversation. And third, client management. Manage multiple clients from a single account. There's also a 3-month free trial to get started. The calculators are free to use. Run your first simulation today. Your clients deserve a clear, reliable bucket strategy. When you're ready to go further, with embeds, reports, and client management, reach out to unlock the full plan. Welcome to Cherish Buckets.